G'day and welcome to another video with Better Pics. Hope this finds you all well. Just wanted to create a very quick video today to look at the advantages of using adjustment layers when it comes to color grading or making color adjustments to your clips within Premiere Pro. So adjustment layers, exactly the same as adjustment layers that you would normally see in Photoshop, are really a good option to consider because they offer a lot of flexibility as well as a non-destructive workflow, and particularly with video they offer you a little bit more control within your timeline and clarity around what is doing what. So you can separate and have different adjustment layers to provide different effects on your footage, and it just means that you're able to stay a little bit more organized with all of your assets, but still have all the advantages and flexibility for color grading your footage and giving it a particular look that you may be trying to do. Alright, so as you can see, we are in Premiere at the moment. You can see we've got a few clips there within the timeline. All of them were filmed in a rainforest, and all of them are fairly similar in terms of color. There's been no adjustments otherwise made to these clips, so as you're seeing them, the footage is straight out of camera. So the first thing I'm going to do is just create a bin. If I just right click within the project tab and click on new bin, and I'm basically going to create a bin that is called adjustment layers. And we're going to spell that correctly as well, which is obviously very important. So as you know, I do my best to keep as organized as possible within my projects just to help me stay organized and be able to find any assets that I need really quickly. So within that project tab with it selected, and you can see I've got the adjustment layers bin there selected. I'm just going to go up to File, New, and Adjustment Layer. So super easy to find, and it just asks us around the video settings for that particular adjustment layer. Generally speaking, it defaults to the settings that you have within your project or your sequence. In this case, we are looking at Ultra HD, 25 frames per second, and square pixels, so that's all totally fine. Now, because I had my adjustment layers bin selected, you can see it's defaulted to creating or putting that adjustment layer within the adjustment layers bin, which is a good way to go. So we're just going to rename that. I'm just going to add a V1 or version 1 to the end there. As you can see, you can actually rename that any time you like, which is always a good thing just to help you stay clear on exactly what is doing what or what it represents. So certainly in terms of naming conventions, it's just a good idea to make sure that everything's clear and you know exactly what it all represents. So then all I need to do is click and drag that adjustment layer down onto my timeline, and you can see, as with any asset on the timeline, with a adjustment layer, I can expand that over the top of all of my clips. And this is where the real advantage of using adjustment layers comes in. Rather than having to click and copy and paste any adjustments from one clip to the next, if all of your footage has a similar look and it was filmed in similar circumstance, or you've color corrected all of your footage to be within a sort of realm of each other, you're able to add those adjustment layers, and where you place it on the timeline above any clips or assets below means that that adjustment layer will now affect all of those clips equally. And the advantage there is that you can make the adjustments to the adjustment layer and then everything else is affected underneath. You can of course turn it on and off, and you also have the opacity flexibility there as well, so you can select how much that adjustment is affecting the assets below. You can also cut it between the different assets as well, so that you can apply different opacity levels to those different adjustment layers, and they will obviously affect the assets below differently. We're going to go back to a single adjustment layer above these three clips for now. Alright, so what we're going to do now is go over to our color tab, where we can apply our color adjustments to our adjustment layer. And we're just going to select that. You can see that the lumetric color option becomes active as soon as one of the assets is selected. Now, as I mentioned, adjustment layers are really good if you want to give your whole film a particular look. If all of your assets have already been color corrected so that they're within a sort of a close scope of each other. And what I'll do today is just make some adjustments to that adjustment layer. And these are obviously very, very quick adjustments that I'm making, but it's just for the purposes of demonstration. Add a little bit of darkening of the edges there. There we go. And if we turn that on and off, you can see that we've made those adjustments. These are not necessarily what I would make as a final adjustment, but it at least gives you an idea of the effect that it can have. There we go, and yeah, you can see that that adjustment layer above those three assets is affecting all three, and we can turn that on and off to see the effect before and after. And as I mentioned, with the opacity, you can reduce the opacity of that adjustment layer down to 0 or anywhere in between 0 and 100% so that you have full control over how much it's affecting that particular asset or group of assets. Remembering, as I mentioned earlier, you can cut that adjustment layer up and have it affect different assets differently, depending on what look and effect you're hoping to achieve. So the beauty of adjustment layers, as I've said, is they're a wonderful non-destructive way of applying a particular look to your footage. They're a great way to keep your adjustments separate to your original clips so that you can stay better organized, and you can adjust the amount that the effect that you've applied affects the assets below that particular adjustment layer. So it's really all around a great way to go when applying a look or a color correction or any effect to your assets or your video footage on your timeline. As always though, with any video or photo editing, there are many ways to achieve the same outcome, and adjustment layers are just one way to achieve some color correction or color grading to your footage. So I hope you consider it to be an option. Do make sure to have a bit of a play around with an adjustment layer or two and have a look at the effects that you get, and you may be able to incorporate it into your workflow in the future. Thanks very much for stopping by. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and look forward to hearing from you in the comments below. If you have any questions, as always, they are more than welcome. Thanks again, and look forward to seeing you next time. Take care.